Cool. Got it. So the question I would then have is, if we don't have a formal agenda for tonight, and we're going to hold this vacant until somebody joins and we have the full five, the question that really comes beyond that is this being advertised?
The meeting was advertised regularly, and then we updated the Savvy Citizen notice today because we did change the link that we're using to log into it. But this meeting has been advertised at this time, and it was remained on the calendar. So anybody who wanted to come, like Greg, found the link, and I didn't email it to Greg, and Greg found the link very easily by clicking either by the Savvy Citizen or clicking on the link on the calendar. So
I misspoke. I think I didn't convey my question. Is the vacancy being advertised?
the vacancy is constantly advertised. It's advertised on our website, and it's advertised at our every council meeting. We announce the vacancies, and actually we're meeting with the committee. The vacancy committee leader is Colton Chandler. He's the elected official that's in charge of vacancies. And we're meeting with him prior to the meeting on Thursday to discuss the plan to recruit more members. We've been actively trying to recruit members, as you just did. I think Greg's been asked several times by multiple people to be on the commission. I think Kirsten also asked him. Yeah, we are actively recruiting, and we'll take any help that people are willing to give on that front.
All right. So what do you mean by we always advertise? Are there 5 seats or are there more than 5 seats?
There are 5 seats, and we have a constant running list on the website of who is appointed to each position. And that's what I mean by constantly advertise. It's always on the website, and it's updated as soon as something happens. And I think it's current. I think it has Pearson off, but I'd have to double check that right now to make sure of that.
Okay.
And Colton was a previous planning commission member, so he knows what is required if he's doing some of the recruiting, at least.
Yeah. Okay. So then, cool. So we'll get somebody.
Yeah, I confirmed Kirsten is listed, is not listed. It's vacant on the website, so it is listed correctly on the website.
Okay, so it's advertised. Okay. So the things that we had talked about that as a planning commission we wanted to address. I know that.
Sorry, can I interrupt? Can we get the brief update on the zoning project before we do the list?
Oh, yeah.
Jim was going to give us, Jim and Greg were both in attendance at the public event last week.
Yes, so it was basically they brought, similar to the maps that you've already seen, they brought map boards. Both Zonco and Paschik were in attendance. And we set, and it was Ingram and Crafton both invited to this event. Although I think it was predominantly Crafton residents and elected officials that were there, although there were some Ingram elected officials there as well. And we were there for a solid 3 hours, and I think we ultimately ended up with about 25 people that had stopped by. It was a beautiful day out. Most of us were right at the very beginning, and we got feedback. I know, Greg, you wrote notes on a number of the different boards, and some other residents wrote down. But we are seeking since that, we are seeking ways to further engage as the development of the zoning ordinance ramps up here with the writing of the actual language. And we are we're having a conversation with Zone Code and Pashik next week to possibly create a website, which is in the scope of this work, to engage more people so that we could send anybody to it who wants to comment on or have thoughts about any of the issues that are being considered. Generally speaking, that's my update. I don't know, Greg, if you want to add any comments that, to your experience.
Yeah, I think there's like 25 people that came. I think, I don't know. There was a sign up list for people to put their name and email. So I don't know if you grabbed that, Jim, or who would have grabbed that list. But when I talked to Zone Co, I was asking them, I said there was a sign up list for the previous one, and I never received an update. You know what I mean? So I can't really remember the names of the people from Zone Co, but the one shorter woman I was talking to, Jim, you probably know their names off the top of your head.
You were probably talking to Amzi.
Okay, and she was saying that yeah, I guess they're going to try to try to step up the communications, and was going to talk with you about like a website and some place for people to park their comments and to see the post those boards and stuff like that. So I think it was pretty evident that there was not the public engagement that you would think that would be so critical to a issue like this. So I think there was a thought by Zone Co and others to get more information quicker, and that's one thing I got out of it. Without getting too deep into what I thought was strong comments, and without pushing my own comments, but some of the comments were like size of a. So what happened was people were able to get the executive summary and the report off of the website. So some of them had a chance to look at that, and the people that looked at that, the comments that they had from that were, that I got off of that were, people are going to comment on what bothers them, not what works for them, pretty much. So the comments that I heard were like the sidewalks being 4 foot wide. People are concerned that do they have to make their sidewalks 4 foot wide if they're not? You know what I mean? Some of the planting stuff, I think some people thought that they were going to be told what they had to plant. And also, I think one of the big issues was the auxiliary dwelling units. Seem to be a big pushback on those, having those in the available to be in the zoning code. So I think that those were some of the issues that I personally heard, with the auxiliary dwelling units being almost like really people were adamant about it. It was like almost a non-starter from what I was hearing too. So other than that, I thought it went well. They had a lot of food there, but I think they took a lot of it back. But I think it would have been nicer if it was better attended. But so Jim, I don't know how you can comment on what comments I just made now, but that's what I was hearing while I was there.
So a little bit of confusion as to how, whether zoning changes are like retroactive to existing buildings and setbacks and all those things.
Right.
Was Zone Co or council kind of pushing back on that, just saying like anything existing is grandfathered in?
Well, no, I think Zumco just told the public that these were just preliminary ideas and they're looking for community input to come up with the ultimate zoning. I don't know. Is that what you think, Jim? I don't know. You're with Zumco all the time, so I don't know what you're hearing.
No, I agree. I think that's always a concern when talking about zoning is people don't understand how it functions.
Right.
And I agree, that's something you always have to calm people down about when, if you already have existing use, that isn't going to change the zoning ordinance is not going to affect that. But then I didn't hear any of the conversations around the ADUs. So I can't speak to that. I think a couple.
What are ADU?
Accessory dwelling units. It's when you allow, like if you, let's say you have they call them a bunch of different things, like a house behind your house that was maybe just a garage, or maybe it was used by other people at one point. That can be used as a dwelling unit. You can change that and allow that in code. And they often do allow that in areas to encourage density. But I didn't hear anything about that, but I did hear about Airbnbs came up a few times in a few conversations. And the issue has been parking in pretty much all of them was always the issue, like the issue around parking and breaking up breaking up houses into apartments. But I have to go actually for a minute. My dog.
Okay.
My girlfriend's dog just ran away, broke his leash and ran away. So I'm going to be back in just a moment. I'm going to go.
No worries.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Good luck. Greg, do you have anything more to add while Jim steps away?
No, I'm trying to think. Something was crossing my mind while Jim was talking. Oh, one of the things that what Jim was just saying about people just not understanding the process is that I was talking with one of the Zone Co representatives, and we were talking, and I said we kind of both talked about having some kind of a timeline that people know that, April, we're going to have this input meeting, and then we're going to now, in September, have another draft with your inputs, where you can have comments again, because of it seemed like the Zone Co, representative was mentioning that, this stuff isn't set in stone. We're trying to get ideas, we're trying to get public input. So I think that if even at the very beginning of a project, I don't know, my experience is every project has some sort of, even if it's rudimentary, some sort of a Gantt chart that shows what has to happen when, so that everybody has an understanding of that. And I think that, I don't know if Zone Co is going to try to develop one of those or not, but I think that would really help the public know that, okay, this is a meeting to get public input. I was surprised by how many people don't go to the website to look at the documentation. The zoning, you guys posted the zoning document, in January, or maybe even earlier than that, I don't know. But so more communication, I think, is better, and have some sort of a timeline. Some of that's my own opinion there. So
I know when they proposed, they provided a rough timeline. I'm not sure how much that's changed since, but I imagine it would be pretty simple for them to, confirm it and have have borough administration make it available on the website somehow.
Right.
Would take somebody asking.
Yeah, the transparency of it all.
Can
You
I
know,
say anything? Can you guys hear me?
yes.
hey, Matt.
Hi, Matt, welcome aboard.
Sorry, guys. I thought it was at 7 o'clock. I apologize.
Well, you're
Greg?
5 minutes early.
Yeah, thank you. Greg, in the vein of what you're saying, and I think the rest of you who know me, is one of the biggest problems for the borough and for the school district. And I know you and technically savvy people, you know, a lot of people to do not go online, do not get emails of savvy citizen and all these kind of things. And I brought this up before, and I can't remember who said that they were going to follow up with it, but you know, we have the sign down by the miniature golf course. We have the fire department has their LED sign. Now the elementary school has their sign. There needs to be more advertisement in your face if you actually want to get people of the community to be involved, or even those little signs that they put out for, you know, for elections or for the musical that's happening at Carlton. You guys might think that I actually sent out to Jim. I thought we were meeting in person. Well, he said, well, because there wasn't, you know, a whole lot going on, we're going to do it Zoom. People just, you guys may think it because you do it at work and that's how you guys survive. But, you know, for someone like me that's in the construction industry, in the bar, restaurant industry, we do not survive by what you guys do. It's just not the reality. And you guys might think it is, but it's not the reality for a high percentage of people. It really isn't. So I'm just putting that out there, you know, playing off of what Greg said. You're never going to get people involved unless it's in their face, in a different media than on the web, because literally I check my email maybe once every 2-3 days, 4 days sometimes. Just, you know, that, you know, I'm 56 going on 57 years old. You know, yeah, I have my phone and everything, but I don't check my emails. It's just not the way we operate. So
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I think you make good points. If we want to bring people along, I think we have to consider the other ways.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that, you know, council wouldn't have had it placed on the signboard down by the park. I don't know who is the liaison from council to the elementary school, but I'm pretty sure there isn't one, and I think that's a miss. I think signage at the library is absent. You know, little things. Greg, you've been instrumental in getting the feet to the street in terms of the park plan with, you know, the churches. You know, there seems like it seems like this happens more than once a year, and it happens every year, that there's a need to communicate certain initiatives with the community, and yet there's no one that has a short list of, oh, well, we need to do these 5 things. Here's the signage strategy, right? I mean, you know, there's a couple of restaurants there on Serafino's and the Circle Inn, right? That could certainly be more than, proprietors be more than happy to put a little placard up for a couple of weeks. They do it for the plays, they do it for other things. Why wouldn't they do it for this? So yeah, I mean, but again, that's why the job was given to a contractor. You know, I mean, I don't think that I mean, it's just, so, you know, one of the things that, you know,
It should be part of their scope, Eric.
right,
I mean,
right, that's my point. Which job your contractor, get the word out and hold these stakeholder engagement sessions and promote them. That comes with it. But you know, I do think that you know, having a strategy, look, I understand that the Borough of Crafton doesn't have a social media strategy per se or policy. But there are people who talk about Crafton and issues on Facebook. You know, this could easily be a link that was drafted and placed on the Facebook, say, hey, come check this out. You know, no comments permitted on the Facebook, right? But paste it out there. You know, there's lots of things that could be done, but they weren't. And this is just another example of, you know, these things are, so I don't entirely blame the contractor. I think we
No,
can do a better job as a community to think of,
I don't,
hey,
I don't
what is
blame the.
what is the stakeholder engagement strategy for an initiative in Crafton?
I don't
And maybe
blame,
that's something that the planning commission can recommend.
possible. I don't blame the contractor. I don't blame any of us or, in our minds right now, the way to get to people is through social media. I understand that. So I didn't mean to be bashing that aspect of it.
No.
I'm just meaning that, because what's going to happen is this is all going to take place, right? And then you're going to have all these naysayers that come out and say, well, we didn't even know about it. Like then we're like, well, you've had every opportunity in the world. Like, what do you mean? So, or does it come down to people just don't really care? And,
Well, there's that too, right?
We
There's
just do
that.
what we do and try to make it the best. That's why we've volunteered our time and try to make the best that we can based on what we know of other people. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a whole nother.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Matt. And I think that my point is you're always going to have that kind of, after the fact complainer, in the world, but you don't want to give them, you don't want to put heat in the fire by giving them opportunity to say, well, this was never, it was only on the internet site. It was only on the website. It was only, you know what I mean? So, cover all the bases. And then, like you said, it's like, well, no, there was a sign on the door of my bar for 3 weeks. I mean,
Right.
you kidding
There
me?
was one at Giant Eagle's bulletin board.
Right.
Bob's Barber Shop.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. And this comes up, this came up with the park plan. This comes up not infrequently where we're like, oh, geez, we need to communicate with the community. And it's not there's not a checklist. Somebody says, okay, if the job is to communicate with the community, okay, here are the signage opportunities. Here's the liaison to the school district. We need to pull that lever. We need to, do the business community. This is what we have to send to the Rotary. This is what we have to send to the church community. And, maybe those things are an email distribution list, right? The church community does respond to email. The Rotary does have an email address. There's lots of ways, to do this, but it's like every time it's reactive, like, oh, geez, now we have to communicate to somebody. So,
Right.
I think that, I do think that's a viable, Lydia, I think it's great. You said that. I think it's a viable way for us to say, hey, let's not just have a, look, every contract, every consulting opportunity has a plan for communication and change. That's part of the business, right? So they should have a communication plan that somebody looked at. There should be a matrix that says who's responsible for what, who's accountable to what, who's, blah, 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 right? There's a lot of stuff, who's consulted, who's informed. There's a lot of stuff in that could be formalized so that it's a process in a folder. Whenever somebody says go, it's not like, oh, what do I do? It's like, just run through a checklist. Yeah, the physical newsletter, right? That's good. So some things were hit, not everything, but maybe having something comprehensively, it's just checklist would be a good motion.
So can I make a motion? Let's bite this off for this specific project and then also maybe carry it through for future priorities. So can I make a motion to request that council direct the consultants to make an effort to advertise subsequent public engagement opportunities on the various physical signs around Crafton and Ingram boroughs and some key businesses / public spaces like Giant Eagle Bulletin Board, Library, etc.
I'm gonna append that and say and churches.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Second that motion.
I second it.
Oh, Matt seconds that motion.
Okay. Do we want to take a roll call vote? Vince,
You're muted, Vince. Thumbs up, Vince.
Thank you. Yes.
okay. Eric,
Valchef, yes.
Matt,
Yes.
okay, and I'm a yes. Lydia Herring's a yes. So we will forward that to Jim to get to council so that the next step of this project, a wider net will be cast. And then, yeah, Eric just added, we'll get to this next, but there's some future priorities that we're starting to list, and we can add that onto that list as a more general idea of how do we get the word out better aside from the borough website and Savvy Citizen.
Is he chasing a dog plus texting at the same time or emailing? How's he doing that?
I caught him. I got him.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
What's he doing that?
Luckily, my neighbor who likes to walk around with treats literally in his arm, he had he up the hill, so it's perfect.
Well, I'm glad you found your dog.
Thanks, me too.
Cool. All right. You want me to jump into this
So-
next kind of list here?
So just to make this, Jim, do you mind if I read what you messaged so that it's on the record?
Sure. No,
Sounds like there was a little more done besides online. The public engagement event did get included in the physical newsletter, which was sent out this spring to each resident of the borough of Crafton Borough. I don't know if Ingram Borough probably didn't receive something like that.
they were on their own to promote it in their community, in Ingram, the way that they saw
Right.
it.
And then the Rotary Club did advertise it as well. I'm not sure if that was online based or not.
That was on their physical signboard.
On their physical signboard, okay. Where is their board?
I was gonna say, where is their board?
I should say not their physical signboard, but the board that they often advertise on that's in front of the volunteer fire department.
The VFD
Really?
board. Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, I didn't even see it. So there you go.
Okay, so Jim, I don't know if you were here for this part, but we did make a motion so that the next step of the zoning project kind of maybe cast a wider net for the public to be engaged, since 25 people isn't really a huge amount.
Yep, I did get that, and that's why I said got it. Thanks. Sorry, I didn't, and it wasn't clear.
Okay,
But yes, thank you.
cool. And then on the zoning project update, besides the recap of last week's public event, is there any more information about when Planning Commission will see a draft of the text to start reviewing and discussing, and have one of the consultants attend a Planning Commission meeting? I know that was part of their scope.
I don't know when that will happen, but I'm meeting with them next week, so I will get clarity on that, and I can email everybody on Planning Commission to get that clarity.
Okay. And there was a question raised earlier, right after you hopped off, about whether we can get the timeline for this project posted on the borough website so that people can understand what steps are in the process to get the zoning ordinance actually adopted.
Sure.
I know at least when they proposed, they had listed some sort of timeline. I don't know if it's been updated since, but it seems like not a very difficult thing to get done.
Yes, looking for my mute button. Yes, that's absolutely something that we can do. And after I meet with them next week, I'll make it a point to get that on the website as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have comments about the zoning project? Okay, should we move on to a high-level discussion about some of our future priorities, just to kind of guide some of
Yeah,
the next meeting agendas?
Lydia, here's what I would propose. I'm gonna go through this list because it's top of mind. It's what we've talked about kind of recently. I think that we kind of ideate on this list. I'll read it in a second. I think that we come to the next meeting to expand on this about what specifically do we want to do about EV chart, right? Let's start this list. Maybe there's a couple of low-hanging fruit things we want to add to this list. And then as an agenda for next meeting, we'll spend some time thinking about what are some concrete things Planning Commission can do to help address these sorts of things. So if what I read is not in the domain of Planning Commission, let's talk about that as well. And we can strike those things off if we agree. So I'm going to start at the top of the list that I have is EV charging. You know, we talked about this. There was some research that was done. It's a thing. It is going to come our way. It is clearly a topic that is here to stay, right? So I think that's something we can spend some time on. Maybe regurgitate some of the stuff that has already been done on the next meeting. Come up with maybe 2 or 3 ideas of what can we specifically and tangibly do as a planning commission to help this issue, help address this issue in our community, right? So next, any comment on that before I go to the next? You want me to read them all first and then you comment at large? Matt, what do you prefer? Vince, what do you prefer?
Go ahead and read them out loud and then we can comment after.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So brick streets, it's something that we've had come up multiple times. So there's lots, I think, of conversation that we can have there. The whole eco district concept, bringing it to Crafton. I think that there was a lot of interest at what point around this, and well, I think the zoning kind of came up and we didn't really talk about eco districts as much. So maybe that's something that should be reserved as parking. Again, maybe that's tied to zoning, so maybe that's already being addressed. So next to that is the zoning support and public input. I'm going to reorder this. And with that in mind, I would propose that we kind of come up with a comprehensive, to our best of our possible recommendation, list of things that should be on a checklist for a communication strategy for borough initiatives, right? Say, oh, there's these, come up with specific businesses, come up with specific, not just, the businesses in town. Let's come up with a list of some that should be kind of usual suspects, right? And then the last piece is something that Jim and you and I've talked about at length. Matt, you and I've talked about at length, but not in a planning commission forum, and maybe it should be. What can the planning commission do in terms of helping the community wrestle with the concept of a community development corporation being launched in the Crafton municipality?
That is a goal of the comprehensive plan, which our charge is to further the goals of the comprehensive plan, just generally. So that fits under that. So I don't think that's out of left field, is I guess what I'm saying.
No, not at all. Yeah.
We should also pull out that comprehensive plan to list anything else that's unmet, any other goals that are unmet on this list.
I was just going to ask you, as our resident Thrive expert, is there anything that stands out in your mind that should be done? Because I just thought of something as I said that. with relating to the comprehensive plan, the Thrive plan. I think one of the things that we can talk about is blight.
There is a side yard program, and they have been, from what I understand, Jim, maybe you can fill this in better for me, but they have been fairly proactive with a few, maybe one or more per year of taking down blighted buildings that are vacant.
Right.
Well, right. I can only fill in a little bit of that information. I'm sure Eric, you have a lot more information on this, but we are applying to take down another week at the council meeting on Thursday. We're asking for approval to apply for funds to take down 64 Grandview, which has been on the topic for many years, from my understanding, because it's a fairly expensive one to take down. And that's where we're focusing on that one. There are others on the list, and we are working with the finance committee to develop a plan. In fact, I talked to the school board today. Well, I didn't talk to the school board. I talked to Jim Shriver, who's the current president of the school board, about getting a meeting together with them as well, so that we are developing strategies. But I would love to have the planning commission helping with that as well. I mean, it's an all hands on deck type of work. So I think getting everybody on board is a good thing.
Which one on Grandview?
64 Grandview.
Is that the one that's owned by, well, was owned by Mrs. Gatens?
I don't know who the owner is.
It's one of the duplexes there.
It's like a fourplex, I think.
It's a
Yeah,
fourplex.
multiplex, sorry. Yeah.
Can I ask a question when it comes to stuff like that? Does the borough own it yet at this point?
No, we do not have to own it to take it down if it's been marked as it's marked as a demo. I mean, as a what do you call it? Condemned.
Unsafe, condemned unsafe
Yeah, and
structure.
it actually, that's a misleading building. It actually looks like it's in pretty decent shape from the front. But if you go around back, you can see that I think one of the floors is actually completely collapsed in.
Right.
Tax delinquent from, sorry, I got a motorcycle driving by. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
No,
There is they have been tax delinquent for more than 8 years.
oh, she's dead.
What's that?
She's dead.
Oh, I have no idea I have no idea who owns it. So,
Mrs. Gatens, she's dead.
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that probably should have gone to whoever is next in line. But that's what naturally happens on these cases. You either demolish it or you take it to sheriff's sale, or, one or the other, or you do both, in which case, in this case, we're going for demolish first to protect the community and protect against the blight. But we'll probably take it to sheriff's sale if that also
That's it.
doesn't come up with something.
Well,
Have we
wouldn't-
tried sheriff's
why wouldn't
sale
you-
yet?
Have we tried sheriff's sale at this point? No, I don't know that we have on that.
Why
I mean,
not?
It'd make more sense to try to sell it before tearing
Yeah,
it down, because
Absolutely.
that's 4 units that we're never gonna get back.
Yeah, I mean, we can bring that up at council meeting on Thursday. It's currently on the council agenda, so we absolutely can do that.
Okay,
And generally speaking, school districts tend to spend more time taking things to sheriff's sale than municipalities, because literally the tax, they don't get to bring back as much tax as the school districts do. And the school district has to be willing to go to free and clear sale, meaning that if you take it to a sheriff's sale and it doesn't sell the first time, then it'll go through again, but the next time it goes through free and clear, meaning that there are no liens and no taxes on it. The taxing, all three taxing authorities have to agree to that. So it's a little more work to take it to sheriff's sale, and I can find out the details on that, but that's generally, and I might be wrong about, I have to, again, I got to double check the details on all that, but it's really the school district that will take things to sheriff's sale.
So, but long and short of it is, if they demolish the building, it's still owned by somebody.
That's
The
correct.
property is. Mhm.
No, I mean, to me, it's a moot point. Why not take it to sheriff's sale? Even if you gotta circle the wagons and go through it being, you know, a free and clear sale. I mean, so some developer or, you know, wants to buy it and demolish what's there, then to build something else, but at least somebody's paying taxes on it now. Why, I mean, you do that,
Well,
or you're gonna do.
Sometimes,
No,
Sorry.
sorry. You're gonna have the same thing that's going on down in the valley. You got all these people that own all this property down there. All right, you know, big Short-Term State Nature Conservancy being one of them. And they don't pay their taxes. So what good is it?
well,
What good is it?
sometimes with the side yard program, the next door neighbor buys that property and agrees to pay taxes on
Who are they
it
gonna buy it from?
for the
Who are they
right to
gonna buy
have
it from?
land.
Who are they gonna buy it from until the tax
Yeah.
sale goes through?
They don't
Jim will
have
have
to,
to weigh in on that.
So,
they don't have to, when they do a vacant property recovery program, they don't have to go through the tax sale to claim the property. There's an Allegheny County program called the Vacant Property Recovery Program. It's either 3 or 5 years tax delinquent, your neighbor can buy the property and rehab it. You can buy it, and they can buy it in either condition. They can buy it as a condemned building or as a vacant lot.
Fine. However you wanna do it.
I'm not for or against it either way. I'm just giving you information that it's not lost on taxes forever and always.
I understand, but then you're
Some of
hoping.
the-
So then you're hoping that the neighbor to the left and neighbor to the right take over the property, but in the meantime, the grass is still growing 10 feet tall, so on and so on, and it's an eyesore, it continues to be an eyesore, be an eyesore, be an eyesore. Put it on it, go through the motions of doing the sheriff's sale, getting it done to give to somebody that could possibly develop the property.
Vince, are you willing to have a discussion about this at the council meeting, or should we make a motion about it?
Would I
No,
be willing to?
absolutely. I'm absolutely gonna talk about it during council. I mean, the house is 3 houses down from me, so I would love to
Okay.
see people living there. So
Yeah, okay.
And in the meantime, I'm sorry, I honestly, Matt, I don't know one way or the other. Like, I don't know why this was the decision that, I worked with the other people in the borough office. I don't know why, the plan is just to take these condemned buildings to what do you call it? To demo them as opposed to
I understand.
sale. Other than I know there can be a pretty significant cost to take it through sheriff's sale. Whereas applying for the grant really doesn't cost as much. So maybe that's but I can find more information out so that and Vince, if you want to call me on Thursday, we can have a discussion about what I've learned so that, we can both, before we go to the council meeting on Thursday night, have a better idea of like the decision-making process. I honestly don't know. I don't know where the what the decision paradigm is basically.
no, absolutely. I think from what I remember, before I was on council, it was brought up, and Brad had fought against demoing it so we could pursue other options, being a sheriff's sale. But from then until now, I'm not sure if anything ever happened. So
Okay.
It says, Jim, believe me, I've been doing this a long time, meaning developing and doing these types of things, and you are correct. One of the hardest things to do is to get it to where all 3 taxing bodies agree to let it go. And it is an uphill battle. There's no doubt about that. So
I can comment on that. About 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, it sounds about right. Last council, they did streamline through some sort of formalized memorandum of understanding or otherwise. They did create some sort of a agreement with the school district, so that the school district basically didn't have to worry about Crafton's agreement on any of these properties that they wanted to take to sheriff's sale. So there is something there's something that's already on the books between the two bodies and some sort of intergovernmental cooperation agreement or whatnot, that takes away at least part of that procedure, right?
Mhm.
Part of that time to streamline the costs around it. So that is out there. I don't know how you go and find that, but I can tell you that it was done during last council.
Yeah, when I talked to Jim earlier, he did mention that there was some kind of discussion previously, and I don't know what came out of that, but I'm sure I'll email him first thing in the morning, and maybe I'll get some understanding. And somebody is hopping on, Helena is hopping on as well. So, but I will find out more about that as well.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump back to the list. I just want to make sure that we've covered it. So we have EV charging, Brick Streets Eco District parking, zoning support for public input, commercial development, general issues around blight that we can tackle, and trails, walkability, connectivity. So we'll talk about those items, unless anybody objects. We'll talk about those items on the next meeting, and we'll come up with a couple of few specific things that we can be doing as a recommendations body to help advance those issues in the community. Agreement?
Yes.
I think that sounds good. Eric,
Anything else that we want to add? Go ahead, Lydia.
you had just posed a question when you listed parking, whether that's kind of included in the zoning update process or not. And I'm not sure if Jim was around when, I think you were already back, Jim, but do you have any 2 cents on that, whether parking should be taken up as a separate issue, or if that's really something we should be focusing on within the zoning project scope as we review it?
Parking is definitely going to be a significant portion of zoning. But I'm not sure if parking is a really broad topic. So was there something specific that came up related to that?
No, we had gotten prior to you, we had gotten some crazy, like, written on the back of an envelope. It was really well done, but it wasn't really well formalized, and nobody ever bumped it against the existing rules and regulations. But there was a patrolman in the Crafton borough who had kind of itemized a bunch of intersections and where signage and where things could be improved. And really a lot of it was just enforcement of what was on the books and really didn't have to cut us. But there were some things in there that were, they were kind of, complicated, right? And I know that, we kind of made some recommendations that went back up to council, and there were some things that were then brought up in kind of passing around some parking, conceptual parking things around the borough building. And I don't know exactly what they were. Like I said, I'm going from memory here, not from notes, so I apologize. But I think that there, and probably the stuff around the borough building would be addressed directly in the zoning, right, in the zoning plan. But things that are more residential in nature, and what do you do with this alley and that thing, that may not be. So we can have a we can look at what those are, if there was anything that we kind of annotated at that point, and resurface it if there's things around parking we want to discuss. So I just put it down. I put these things down as placeholders. I'd ask us all to think about EV charging, Brick Streets, Eco Districts parking, zoning support for public input, commercial development, blight, and trails, walkability, connectivity as things to noodle on for the next meeting. And also open the floor now if there's something else that someone want to add to that list for us to noodle.
Yeah, I just add add real quick points. I love that you have Brick Streets on there. I know that's an issue, and we really need to develop a plan on how we're going to deal with that, because as Greg has pointed out to me and to many others, and I completely agree that we don't want to just be removing all the streets. So whatever we can do to create a plan that will allow us to take those into the future, because they are a much larger investment than asphalt, but they do last much longer too. The other piece being that I am aware of that fire study, as it has been labeled in, it has been called, and we could definitely talk about that. And I don't know what the objections were to council other than, well, I do know, I think there were concerns that in areas where there was not enough parking that, following it, as it was written would have caused, some difficulties for some areas of the borough. So, but we can, absolutely review that and, but I don't know.
You said fire study, does that mean like fire trucks and parking?
Yeah, that's, I think,
Okay,
and emergency vehicles in general was one of the reasons that it was led.
Didn't they do that about 6 or 8 months ago?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, because I think it was Greg Lapel was the one, because he's on the fire department as well. So I think he was one of the main people that did that that study.
Yeah, that sounds right. I have not actually read the study. I just am aware of it.
yeah, and if memory serves me, and there's no guarantee that it does, but if memory serves me, we were given something that was kind of akin to a PDF with some kind of handwritten markings and whatnot on it initially. And what we didn't understand is they were intersections and they were kind of things that were listed, but there wasn't any reconciliation done to, is this an ask to change some sort of like, what do you call it, setback, turning rate, you know what I mean? Or was these, it was just kind of a list and we weren't
Why do you
really
think that list? Why do you think that list came out, Eric?
well, because this one person walked it and
No, why do you think the list came out? It was from the redevelopment from Baldwick to Clearview.
oh, because of the bump outs.
It became because of that.
Oh, God bless America. I love this stuff. Well, anyway,
I'm
we can
just
talk about,
hypothesizing.
yeah, like I said, I don't understand how we can live in a community where sewer pipes and parking can become political. I mean, it's just, I mean, anyway. It is what it is. I will go off to get the stitching tool so that I can stitch up my tongue because I'm biting it as we speak. Crazy.
Anyhow,
I'll refrain from explicatives on this public forum.
Back to Eric's question. Does anyone have anything else to list on here? As far as initiatives?
I think one initiative that I personally would like to see get moving is making Crafton's parks a little bit more dog friendly and possibly having a dog park. I know that was
I
in the
just wrote that down. I love it.
I know that was in the master parks plan. I know a lot of our citizens had commented about that. So some of those things are pretty easy, making our parks dog friendly, because right now you can't have dogs in any of Crafton's parks. The dog park itself might be a little bit more of an investment and a little bit more work, but I think there are some steps we could take towards that.
So Vince, in the park plan, this is what frustrates me to no end, right? In the park plan, it was called out and we did have quality, not just me yelling. I'm good at yelling, not just me, but there was lots of community feedback for having a dog park. And it was settled on the location of a dog park next to the parking lot makes a ton of sense because now you don't have dogs pooping through the, the jungle gyms and the, music areas and that sort of thing. And there's a natural location for it because it's fenced in and it's a ball field that's not played on. It's not played on. And that ball field is fenced in and that ball field is used today. I can guarantee you that if I walk down there out my back door, oh, my camera's on. If I walk out that back door right now, pointing, I walk out that back door right now and look down at that park, I will see dogs. I will see dogs in that fenced in area, mostly fenced in area. So the idea of taking that from a mostly fenced in area to a formal dog park, would not cost the $65,000 that was budgeted. The $65,000 was put in the plan was what would it cost if we had to hire a contractor to do it? And I am on the record and on the hook for volunteering my Saturdays as long as they take to make it happen. And I will get people like you, I'm sure, who would join me in making it happen. It would not be hard to open up a dog park there formally, but it would take a council resolution, right, to codify allowing dogs in the park or that portion of the park, right? It would take, the ability to, level set what that field is. And there's the issue of a certain captain of industry or military who has a plaque there. No one knows, no one has any idea. There's a motion passed 20 years ago to erect that, but no one knows really who it is.
Actually, that actually isn't true, Eric. His name's Jason West.
Yep.
He's an Afghan vet who many people have told me they knew. He was a friend of Barb's son, who is Barb is the police secretary.
Okay.
And I've also been told by CIT that they do use that field every week. And we are actually planning to put more soil on that field currently after conversations with CIT. We are removing the back field that was also named after someone from 60 or 70 years ago. So we are removing the one that is by the sled riding hill. But I just would be remiss. I have been told by CIT that they do regularly use that field. And we are going to be putting soil in that field so they can use it. And we've been told, I've actually spoken to a number of mothers who have their kids play at that field. So it's used as regularly as their other fields are used, but there was definitely a strong interest in CIT from keeping that field active.
Well, maybe the motion should be to increase the enforcement of the rules so that those of us that do abide by the rules and don't take our dog into that space. I've been in that space. I've walked through that space, and it is lots of landmines in that space. It is actively used as a dog park. If it is used as a baseball field, it is also used as a dog park to enforce the existing codification to keep dogs out of it.
May I ask a question?
Always.
This goes to Vince. Are you looking for this dog park to be 100% walkable from your residence, or are you, or for all the residents? The reason why I ask, and I'm not being a funny man, you do know that there's a dog park right across the creek that you can join, even though you're not a Thornburg resident.
Yeah, I'm aware. You have to pay a little bit of money, but and it's only certain days, I believe, you can have your dog there.
I don't know a lot about it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's $50 or more now. And you kind of have to know a guy to get the application in. It's not easy. And it is not a dog run. Just to be clear, Matt.
Yeah, you have to have your dog on a leash there. I mean, right?
There is. I don't know that you need to have a leash there. That may or may not be a requirement. I'm pretty sure that it's not, but I don't know that. Because people do let the dogs into the creek and whatnot. But there is not a fence. It's not a pen. It's not a run.
Oh, no. I understand. Yeah. I was just asking because it's not like we have a ton of space in Crafton open, that's open to do different things with. And yes, I'd love to take both my dogs down there too as well, Vince, but there is the place across the creek if we don't have a better option, is all I'm just getting at.
No, absolutely. But I just know that there is strong public opinion, strong public interest in making Crafton more dog friendly. So that's why I wanted to say that.
I'm in. Maybe we can do something on based on what Jim was saying, maybe where they're abandoning the field, it's at the base of the sled riding hill. Maybe there's a way to work something out over on that section. And maybe
Matt, in the park plan, we looked at that extensively. The trouble with that is putting in a fence over there would negate the viability of, well, if it ever snows again, the viability of the sled riding hill.
It would change the dynamics of
It,
that
it,
too.
it, re- it really does. And so, the question was, and part of the park plan was, the feedback that came, and Jim, that's really great information. During the park planning process, the feedback that came to us was this was no longer used by CIT. You see what I mean? But that was in the dead of winter. So yeah, it was no longer used by CIT in the winter time, maybe. I
You
don't
have to
know.
remember, CIT Fields, that's an independent, company or organization or whatever. And, a lot of other people use those fields these days. So pay to play concept. So whether it be high schools or these AAU baseball teams and everything like that. So what's going to happen is the community team, the T-ball teams, and everything, they're going to start getting pushed out, and there's going to be the need to start using, Crafton Park. It's just going to, it will continue. They have grown that business pretty large.
Right. Well, I think so. Long story short, these list of, I don't know how many things, let's say 10. These list of items, I think will make for a fair and contentious conversation for us to come up with 9 things, for us to come up with some concrete strategies, some formal recommendations of what we can do as a body to help advance these issues in the community. So with that, do you guys want to look at it? I can share my screen. See if there's
I wrote
anything
it all
else.
down.
Go ahead and share it. I'm sorry. It's on the shared drive that everyone has
Oh.
access to, but I didn't realize nobody was sharing it.
Yeah.
I
Do you
wrote
see
it
my,
down.
I have no idea what screen I'm sharing. You guys see Nevada? Do you guys see?
See it. I can see it.
Okay. So these are the 9 things, right? EV charging, Brick Street. So we'll make this the agenda for the next meeting. Are we meeting ideally in person?
Yeah.
I would love to.
The last meeting, Matt and I were there. We fired up the Jim had a computer. We fired up the computer. Nobody joined the Zoom, but it was there. I think that we should give it a try. Those that can't make it, and I could be one of them. I don't have that kind of life where I know. I could be one of them that would have to join by Zoom. But does that mean that we need to have a change in the advertisement process, Jim, for the next
Yeah.
month?
No, we still have it listed as 6:30, and we have both things listed, the Zoom account and the physical address. So that should be fine. We don't have to change anything. These were advertised at the beginning of the year physically in a paper, and then they're available. All the information is available on the website. And we did vote to make them all in person. I pulled the trigger because Lydia asked me yesterday, and I knew we didn't have an agenda, and I knew we didn't have a chairperson, so I pulled the trigger yesterday. But yes, it is on you how you guys handle this, and I apologize if I overstepped.
Honestly, you guys can vote and decide, but I will wholeheartedly land in a camp of hybrid. The technology is there to do it, and it only opens the door for those who can't make it to be able to attend. It really is. It's an accessibility thing that should govern everything that we do going forward. Matt, you live in a world that is brick and mortar. I live in both. I prefer the world of brick and mortar, but I need both. And so I would say that, unless we're willing to have more absences due to, special spontaneous travel and other issues that come up, I still will fall on the side of a hybrid approach.
And it worked out great today. I mean, Jim sent out that email, and I'm like, I thought we were starting to do it in person. It's like, well, based on, the agenda and everything like that, it just made more sense to, do it Zoom. And I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense,
So we'll plan on in person for those who make it, but there will be a Zoom for those who don't. And then the last memory escapes me. There was one more piece related to that that was super important. Oh my goodness. should have wrote it down while I had the chance. I honestly don't know what it was, but there was something that was related to that. Oh, thank you. Way to go, Lydia. Ingram. Every couple of months, we co-meet with Ingram. Is the May meeting a co-meet meeting?
We do it quarterly, so it would have been,
I don't remember.
I know it's always November.
That might have been last meeting, actually. I didn't realize I think there was a note somewhere, but I didn't realize what it meant. I thought it was about the zoning update. So that might have been last month. We can always get in contact with them and find out.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have a planning commission because you had a couple of people move out of town that did everything. So,
I think Aaron and Jim Marsilio are the two members right now. I don't know if anyone else was appointed once Greg Butler moved.
yeah, Greg was kind of the, one that got things moving over there. So, Jim, can you take that as an action item to see when if Ingram should ever want to meet again, Ingram, what the proposed date would be for that?
Sure, I will find out and email everyone.
Can we
It was
prevent?
in the advertisements at the beginning of the year. We had the dates of the joint meetings listed.
Okay, I will find out.
So it might have been March as a joint meeting, or maybe it was April, but either way.
Can I make a
not-
suggestion, Lydia?
Yeah.
To prevent the emails for those of us that don't check these email accounts that often. Could we just agree that if it's the next meeting, we would extend the invite to them to either join us via Zoom or welcome them into our chambers in Crafton?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if that's the case, Jim, then maybe we agree to the next meeting, we head over to their place if they so like. Does that make sense? I don't
Yep,
think that
sounds
the
good.
next one is May, but if it is, that way you don't have to come back to us and say, what do you guys think? You can just, execute.
I think we advertised it as always at the Crafton Council chambers.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Okay,
Or Zoom. We'd have to pull that advertisement. Jim, is that something you can look into for us?
Yep.
all right. Then we're good.
Okay. In the meantime, I will send you Jim and Aaron's email addresses, Jim.
Okay, great.
And also, you've talked with Sam Nucci, the president of Ingram Council?
Sure, Yep. I know Sam, I know Greg Butler, and I met Jim. Actually, at the planning update, I didn't realize he was on the planning commission. Is Jim the planning commission member, also a council person?
It's Jim Marsilio. I don't think he's on council, but maybe he is, and I don't know it.
Well, there is a Jim on council, and I don't remember their last name, so I can figure that out. But if you send me their emails, I will definitely reach out to them and find out what our plans are collectively.
Okay.
Cool beans.
Trying to find.
And I actually have to hop off because I got to head out.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we're good. We have citizens comments. Lydia, you want to take us out?
Yeah, citizen